The Free Agents podcast contains mature themes and adult language. Any discussion of gambling is for entertainment purposes only. Please abide by all laws in your location regarding gambling.
This should be our intro. Can we start?
This week on The Free Agents.
Brady looked about as unprofessional as he's ever looked in his career. Okay, we might as well call them. We're going to put on shitty football because we want to sell advertising.
Is Miami money, or are they the worst 2-0 team?
I think they're money. I think Ryan Tannehill's a legit quarterback. I think he can get the ball down the field. I think that defense is solid. All right. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to the Free Agent Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Smarge. Joining us this week, as always, LJ via Skype. LJ, how you doing, buddy?
I'm upset.
Are you upset? Yeah, you were ranting. We had to roll quick because you were upset. We were already talking about Thursday night, Kansas City at Philadelphia, and I'm excited for the game. But you have other feelings, LJ. What is it?
I do not like Thursday football. You're going to see two teams come into this game that, if properly prepared, would play a great game. But because they're playing on a short week with injuries and everything else, we're going to get a shitty game. I'm sorry, we are. It's going to be a game full of mistakes. Let's look back to this past Thursday night. Okay. Tom Brady looked about as unprofessional as he's ever looked in his career.
No doubt, New England looked rough, and they squeaked by in that game, and it was not a good game for them.
We might as well call these squeak by Thursdays. Okay, we might as well call them. We're going to put on shitty football because we want to sell advertising. And that's just the truth of it. You can look forward to what would have been a good game if these two were meeting on a Monday night when they both played after a Thursday night. Then I'd be excited about this game. If this was an opening game of the year, the problem is when injuries are decimating all these teams right now. We're going to discuss that later. But
Yep.
It's just ridiculous. It really is. It's just ridiculous what's going on.
Well, the public, there's clearly a lot of public. The public's down on KC here, probably for the exact reason you said, LJ. Philadelphia is only just a home favorite, a 3-point favorite in the line. That's where they opened up and it hasn't really moved. So it looks like the books are trying to keep some money coming in on Philadelphia here at home. And
that's
the public
Vegas
feels,
they don't the Vegas, the people, the lines makers don't know, the odds makers don't know what's going to happen this week. So what they do is they make the standard home favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
that's
sort of
it.
a default
-3.
position. Yep.
Philly at home -3 means, well, we don't know.
Yep.
That's the translation.
That's
the what the fuck? Well, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
And I think they're right, but I like Kansas City a lot here. They've been playing really well. I think even I've been a little surprised. We thought they'd be better, but so far they've looked really good. What do you make of them
you know
so
what,
far?
man? I'm not willing to say anything right now. This is Andy Reid going back to Philly. This is Michael Vick and them. Vick's saying all the right things. He's saying he respected Andy Reid, still respects Andy Reid. Said Andy Reid was a great coach. Andy Reid gave him another chance. So Michael Vick's saying all the right things this week. And I think the rest of the Philly team doesn't dislike Andy Reid. I think their time had come to end it there. And I think this is one of those situations where both teams are happy where they are all the parties involved are happy where everybody landed, I think. So I don't know if there's going to be some animosity, some want to win stuff. I just think you're going to see two tired teams, and I think it's going to come down to who makes the least amount of errors. To be honest with you, Kansas City has a good defense. They have a good pass rush. They can get to Vic if they need to. Philly's relying more on the running game than they are anything else right now. LaShawn McCoy and those guys are going to run the ball. So I think the safe bet is the under in this game. Really, I mean, if you're going to gamble on it, I'd take the under. It's under 50.5.
Yeah, I think the short week, it affects both of them quite a bit. Obviously, they're all going to be banged up. I think it's a little bit tougher on Philly because of the travel. They were,
Philly was home this past week and they got to go to Kansas City. It isn't like they got to travel a lot. It isn't like they got to travel far to get to Kansas City.
Yeah.
My problem is the short week. They just don't have time to heal. They don't have time to let that ankle get untweaked. They don't have time to do anything. Short week football sucks. Plain and simple. It just sucks. There's no other way to say it. All NFL fans should just be like, no, we don't want to see your shitty product on Thursday nights anymore. But if you're a gambler, until Vegas adjusts for it, take the under in every Thursday night game because teams are just not going to score.
Well, there you go. That could make you. That could be the value proposition of the whole season right there, LJ.
At least do it until they adjust.
Yeah.
I mean, they already adjusted for the Miami Dolphins this week. The Dolphins are actually a favorite now against Atlanta. That's a 4:00 game. We'll get to that later. But Vegas adjusts, and they haven't adjusted to the fact that Thursday night games suck. I know I sound very unreasonable. But if you look at the product over the time period, think back to last year's games. Cleveland and Pittsburgh just playing horrendous football.
True. They're atrocious games. Games were really bad.
And as the season progresses, it just gets worse. It just keeps getting worse and worse. It's just an awful, awful thing.
Well, and it's tough. For us on the East Coast, it's tough to see some of these games. They had the delays in that Sunday night game, and it was late, man. I had stuff to do. Like, I wanted to see what happened, and that, it's like, they had to take the delay there. It's a weather thing. It's a safety issue. If you're a football fan,
you get a turbo shot in your coffee tomorrow, and you deal with it.
And we have the extra game on Monday night. It's bad enough. A lot of these Monday night games haven't been very good over the years either. It's the same problem.
If your favorite football player can stick a cortisone needle in them, you can take an extra shot of espresso in the morning and get through your day.
Yeah, I suppose.
All right.
Some performance enhancement, LJ.
Oh, my goodness. I had to stay up late. I was just so horrible. All right. Where are we going next?
We got Green Bay at Cincinnati. Cincinnati at home is an underdog. They're getting, looks like 2.5 points. It opened at about 1.
Well, let's be honest now. Cincinnati's offense didn't look all that good this past week.
No.
Against the Steelers. And we don't know if the Steelers have a decent defense still or if Cincinnati has problems. So this is one of those situations where who knows what the hell's going to happen in this game. Green Bay looked like world beaters this past week. They looked really good. So what are we going to do?
Well, the big question is, can the Cincinnati D at least limit what Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay can do offensively? If they can do that, they might have a chance. I don't know. Green Bay is always, favored here.
Did San Francisco's vaunted defense hurry Aaron Rodgers when they played in San Francisco? They've already played in a hostile environment on opening day and nearly won. So I see why the odds makers are giving Green Bay the red light as a road favorite.
Right.
But if history tells us anything, it's take the home dog.
Yes, we like our home dogs. We definitely do. And it looks like you can get it at 3. Maybe you can get some extra points there in a teaser. But I just, that'll be a fun game. I'll be watching everything on Red Zone. We were raving on all Red Zone all Sunday, weren't we, LJ?
I've been ranting about Red Zone since last year. I am a Red Zone convert. I think the Red Zone is the most awesome thing ever created. It's my favorite television show of all time. It's better. Red Zone is better than Breaking Bad. It's better than The Sopranos. It's better than The Wire. Red Zone is new every week. They have exciting plots. They have an excellent host, and there's no commercials.
Yep.
Is there? And if you love football, then you should love NFL Red Zone.
You know what they should do, LJ? I just had a crazy idea. They should take all the old game footage, and in the off season when they're just rerunning games from the season, they should cut all that together and show it as Red Zone. They could even take classic seasons from
what?
like way back when, from like the 80s and stuff, like different teams, like great teams, and just cut it all together as Red Zone and re-air it in the off season just to like have content on the network. I bet some people would actually watch that.
Yeah, they would. I mean, NBA has a classic channel, ESPN has a classic channel, and the NFL Network will rerun older games every now and then. Especially in the lead up to the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship and other stuff, they'll rerun past NFC Championships and such. So yeah, you could do a definite kind of like an NFL Films breakdown of highlights and such. But the joy of it is all the content is new and fresh. You don't know what's going to happen.
Of course.
So that's the joy of the Red Zone is it's fresh, new twists and turns every week. It's violent. There's sexy girls. There's everything. The NFL Red Zone rules.
We have St. Louis at Dallas for our next team. We'll get back to it.
That's another one where we don't know enough about these two teams yet. But Dallas has potential to be a solid playoff team if they can right some of their wrongs. But from what my Cowboy friends have been saying is Jason Garrett's just a curse as a coach. And until they're free of that curse, this team might not be able to jump to the next level. I guess there's some coaching issues in Dallas where they don't make the right decisions at the right times that slow this team down because they, again, a team with a lot of talent. They have Tony Romo, who 4,000 yards is definitely not out of the question for him to throw for. Des Bryant has the potential to be the next, the second best wide receiver to Calvin Johnson, without a doubt. And DeMarco Murray's a solid running back. Miles Austin is one of the best number 2 wide receivers in all of football. Witten just catches touchdown passes. Their defense has some serious horses on that side of the football. So Dallas should be better than what they are. And my Dallas Cowboy fans tell me it's Jason Garrett's fault.
Well, that's not surprising, LJ. I mean, how many seasons how long has Jason Garrett been there now?
Garrett's like on his third or fourth
season now. I always felt like he was a guy that once he came in, unless he won them a championship or something, that he would probably be, they'd find someone else in a couple of years or whatever and try to, he was more of an interim solution, and he's not getting it done.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones has to make a decision. Is he going to cut bait with this guy? And I bet you he's kicking himself for not cutting bait with him and going after Chip Kelly after he saw what happened early on. Just imagine a spread offense with those horses.
Yeah. Well, I think that, the Chip Kelly, job really, it may push some of these other owners to make maybe bolder decisions about coaching going forward, like in Washington, like in Dallas, other places. If they continue to be successful in Philadelphia, I think that could definitely drive. You could see a lot, more, a much bigger crop of college coaches coming into the NFL in the next few years.
We do have a disaster of a college coach. Let's move on to New England, Tampa Bay, and talk about Greg Schiano.
Yeah.
And he's just a disaster of an individual. He's just he has no social skills. He was used to just yelling at young kids and getting them to jump and do whatever he asked them to do. And now that he's in the NFL, you have to have a certain gravitas. You can't be a dick and get grown men to do what you want them to do. You have to, Bill Parcells was a stickler, but he was also a charming individual, and players would run through walls for him. Curtis Martin thought he was his father.
Yeah.
Now, you need to develop a relationship with players in order for them to perform for you. And Schiano doesn't do that. And he's undercuts his quarterback. He's just undercutting everybody. You saw Vincent Jackson just disrespect the wide receiver coach, and just go back out on the field this past Sunday when everything was going on with that New Orleans game. Mm-hmm. Luckily, if you were stealing the live stream from the internet, you could watch the end of that game.
I did.
And Schiano has problems. That's a talented team. Again, Vincent Jackson, Doug Martin, Darrelle Revis. You've got blue chip people at key positions on that team, and Josh Freeman has shown that he can be a good quarterback. He just needs a better situation. If you're Tampa Bay's owner, when do you cut bait? when do you say enough is enough? If this season is a wash, how do you keep the players there that are happy and show that you're going to turn things around? Do you cut early? I would bail early on Schiano and try and salvage part of this year. Josh Freeman needs a confidence injection. He needs a guy to come in and boost his confidence so he can play good again. He needs a guy to come in and turn on the film from the first half of last year and be like, look what you did, Josh. You were great. You were throwing touchdowns. Doug Martin was running. Things were going great. We can do this again. Schiano's gone. Just go out there. I know you can do it, and then see what happens.
Well, moving on to other low-scoring teams, we have Cleveland at Minnesota.
Well, you don't want to talk about New England with the Gronk with the 50-50 chance of coming back?
There's all kinds of stuff going on in New England. We do need to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it, LJ, because a lot of it's not great. Like, I'm not in great. I have a bad feeling for New England this season, the way things are going. So you have a few issues going on with them. All right, then we'll talk about it. We're objective analysis of sports, so we'll gladly cover this stuff.
Okay, then Joe Smarge might be an objective voice on sports, but I am a subjective voice on sports.
Okay, well that's what makes our show fair and balanced, LJ.
I am not fair and I am not balanced.
So New England does have, they came out and, win's a win and all that, but obviously they looked awful. And part of that, like you said, is the short week and all that, I think definitely affects them greatly. But it's also the injuries and the lack of Gronk. Gronkowski does a lot for that offense, not just in being a reliable target for Tom Brady, but in how defenses have to account for him, and that pulls coverage away from other receivers and stuff as well. I think that's a big part of it, where they've been playing with basically Julian Edelman as their top receiver. So that's a big issue. You have, he may come back. It's like they said, it's like 50-50, and we don't really know. The press conference is cryptic as always, and did not really allude to much else. And then we have, and equally as cryptic is Danny Amendola with his, he basically has what they believe is torn hip abductor muscle, which are the muscles that hold your hip, basically your leg into its socket. So that's that can be a tough injury, and they said this week that he doesn't need surgery for anything. That was part of the press conference as well. And
Danny Amendola is going to get better. He always does. He just gets hurt for part of the season. It just comes with having Danny Amendola on your team. And New England is going to float through the season and probably end up in first place in the division anyway, unless the Dolphins continue to do what the Dolphins have done early. But I don't see New England being a bad team. I see them being an above average team, and as they get healthier, getting better and better. And if you're healthy by the time the playoffs roll around and you're the Patriots, you're going to be in the playoffs and you can beat anybody who's in the playoffs. So that's not a huge issue. If Amendola and Gronkowski are healthy come playoff time, they're a Super Bowl contending team.
Well, we can only hope in New England, and you're certainly right that they do benefit from the division is somewhat soft, and therefore the schedule is kind of soft as well for them. So they are fortunate. I think they're lucky that they're playing Tampa Bay. The Jets in Tampa Bay. Those could easily have been losses if they had to play better teams. So who knows? But we'll see. We'll see. It'll be interesting to watch. We'll be watching Sunday. But yeah, so that's that. And I think we should move on to Cleveland and Minnesota because that's such an exciting game, LJ.
Well, I just woke up. After you said Cleveland and Minnesota, I nodded off.
That's all right. That was the last of it.
Christian Ponder puts me to sleep every week.
Yeah, that's some football that I will not be just watching.
The only people Christian Ponder excites are defensive backs because they know they're going to have a chance for a lot of interceptions. That's it. Christian Ponder doesn't excite anybody else. He doesn't excite wide receivers. He doesn't excite Viking fans. I don't even think he excites his girlfriend. I've heard rumors. He's an unexciting individual. But they have Adrian Peterson. They have a good defense, and they have a good offensive line. So Christian Ponder doesn't need to be exciting. He just needs to be He just needs. He's like, you know who Christian Ponder is? He's a last second prom date. That's who Christian Ponder is. He's like, your first date.
Okay, we'll go. I have to take someone.
Yeah, I have to take someone. Christian Ponder's like, all right, fine, I'll take Christian Ponder. So Christian, and you dress him up in a nice tuxedo, and you have good friends around you, so you have a good time anyway, but you're still there with Christian Ponder. And Cleveland, Cleveland is, again, another one of those teams with a bad prom date. They have a great running back, they have a great defense, and they have a really good offensive line, and they just have an awful quarterback, and it's about to get worse. Hoyer's starting this week. It's not right. Steny Hoyer, the congressman from Illinois.
No.
It's Brian Hoyer, who used to be the backup quarterback for the Patriots. So Cleveland is in tank mode anyway. Cleveland just needs to have a bad year so they can get another good draft pick and get a better quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is going to look good in Cleveland with Josh Gordon and Trent Richardson.
The Houston and Baltimore game, that could be a much better viewing appointment as a Sunday game here.
You know what I like about Houston and Baltimore? They're two slightly above average teams that play slightly above average football. So you know what you're getting. You're not going to get anything too spectacular, especially this week with Andre Johnson concussed, and so Houston's going to become even more conservative. Baltimore, they need to break out of that doldrums, man. They're in a bit of a doldrum. They're a better team than they're letting on, but with Ray Rice hurt, there's some issues with Ray Rice. So not Bryce Brown. Who's the backup there? Bernard Pierce.
Yep.
Everybody start Bernard Pierce this week because he's gonna be in that Ray Rice role or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, this is a game. It's 2.5. It's Houston on the road at Baltimore. It's if you're going to gamble on it, don't.
No, I don't really like any of the. I don't really like the action here on this game at all.
No, I don't like any of the action. I don't really like either one of the teams. I'm not, like I said, slightly above average football. That's what you're going to get from both of these teams. And it's not that exciting.
No, it will be some slow football. They're not going to be shooting it out. That's for sure. And the New York Giants at Carolina may not be shooting out. Well, Carolina, they'll be passing the ball. We know that, so.
I gotta say, I watched, the Carolina, with the red zone, you get to see it all. Like Ken Griffey's swing, Cam Newton has to throw one of the most beautiful long passes there ever was. He threw a pass. I mean, he just it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. It's a perfect 10 of a throw. Too bad that he has Ron Rivera as his coach because he's cursed. Carolina is another one of those teams that needs to get rid of a bad coach. They have a huge star in Cam Newton. They have Steve Smith, who's probably a Hall of Famer, the career he's had. He's been to Super Bowls. He's been to Pro Bowls. He's probably on his way to the Hall of Fame. You have a defensive front seven in Carolina that's great. You just have a bad coach, again, making bad decisions. In that Buffalo game, they shouldn't have lost. They should not have lost that Buffalo game. That was a hard game for them to win, but they should have won it.
I agree, LJ. And Greg Olsen, we saw Cam Newton throwing some of those beautiful passes to was top fantasy tight end. I had him in my fantasy league. So
Greg Olsen. He is great.
So.
Greg Olsen is a great pass catching tight end, without a doubt, and he does well with Cam Newton.
So moving on to a NFC divisional game here.
Well, you're not going to talk about the misery that's the Giants? Are the Giants even going to win 7 games this year?
I don't know. I mean, they always, the thing with the Giants is they're also a team, like, it seems like every year, even some of their, their best years where they won the championship, they've had starts that looked ugly. First 2 games, 3 games sometimes.
But has it ever looked
really
this
bad.
ugly?
I don't know, it's been pretty ugly at times, LJ. I remember some times where they were talking about firing coaches and stuff. And they went on to get to the world. Yeah, so that's my point. And and it's New York, so
right now, rest in peace. His brother just passed, so we won't be hearing.
They're going to give him some time. They're not just going to
firing rumors at least for another few weeks before the.
I think someone like Schiano could get fired well before Coughlin's going to get fired. But if they go halfway into the season and they're under 500, and they're not winning games, and yeah, it's going to get ugly. But I think you got to give them a week or two, wait and see kind of thing.
Because seriously, in all reality, the Giants could come out of this week not having won a game yet.
It's true. And part of it is their defense. It's not just the offense. Obviously their offense is having issues, but the defense there, they used to have a front four that could put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks all by themselves without bringing, the linebackers up, without blitzing.
I thought they did a good job against Denver's pass defense. It was no Sean Marino's running that messed them up. But again, that's a bad way to judge because you have to overcommit to one thing or the other.
Yes.
With this Denver team this year. So that's not a true judge of how good the Giants defense is. They're having some issues getting to the quarterback, Jason Pierre-Paul and the other issues, and they're having problems pressuring the ball. So you're right about that. So let's see if they can get to Cam this week. If not, it could be a long year for Giants.
It could be ugly for the Giants. But anyway, moving on to Detroit and Washington. Here's two.
Oh Lord, this is the underachieving bowl.
Yes.
This is RG3. Like I said, there's some problems in Redskin land. Well, we're not calling them the Redskins anymore. I'm gonna join the boycott, and I'm just gonna call them Washington's football team. So I'm done with calling them the other name. But Washington's football team has some issues. And I don't think they're going to get those resolved anytime soon. And and I've heard all the experts say, he needs to decide if he's a runner, he needs to decide this, he needs to decide that. I think he needs a new coach. I really think there's just bad situations right now. There's bad marriages. And you need to get out of these bad marriages in order to make your teams better. And I think RG3 and Mike Shanahan are in a bad marriage. And I think RG3 needs a fresh start, a new coach. Someone to design things for him and not try and fit him in the mold that Shanahan's trying to fit him in.
Well, that's exactly right, LJ. And, it's ridiculous to put this on RG3. Ultimately, the coaches decide what the offense is. And if they're smart coaches, they have an offense that utilizes the talents of their quarterback. And like you said, I don't know that. And we said this before. I don't know if Mike Shanahan's the guy to do that, and clearly, it's becoming clear that he's not. And I think there's some other factors too. I believe the fact that they've been saying that his brace is slowing him down a bit, and that's not his fault. I don't blame the guy for that. I think he's done a good job coming back from his injury, but that may be part of it too. So that could be impacting his play some, from what we're seeing on the field.
Well, I don't know. They've got, again, a top-flight receiver. Garcon's a good receiver. Alfred Morris is a good running back. I guess they have some issues on defense. That is for sure.
The defense is a mess.
That comes down on Shanahan and his defensive staff for them to fix these problems. Because Schneider's not afraid to throw money at things.
Yep.
So if they felt they needed personnel, Schneider would try and find it for them. So we're not talking about a team that lacks resources. We're talking about a team that's lacking brain power, and I think Schneider is in a bad marriage with Shanahan, and I think he needs to divorce himself of him. But I don't think that that's going to come until the end of the year. So if you're a gambling person, I would say take Detroit this week. Because I think the Lions are better than the way the ball has been bouncing for them. I think the Lions should have beaten Arizona. I think they should have beat them, not shouldn't have. I think they should have beat Arizona this past week. I thought there were some mistakes that were being made, or not even mistakes. I just thought the ball bounced in the wrong way for them. A lot of field goals were kicked in that game. The defense played pretty good. So, I don't know. I think Detroit wins this game outright this week.
I think you're right, LJ. I think Reggie Bush will have another outstanding game this week.
You want Reggie Bush to have another.
Well, there's a lot of people took Reggie Bush, and he's been
on fantasy, but the problem is he's a little hurt.
He is a little hurt, but the Washington D looks so bad at times. I question whether they can stop anything.
Oh God, Brendan Pettigrew and the rest of the secondary receivers for Detroit are ready this week to be wide open because the Skins defense is so bad, they're going to have to overcompensate for Calvin Johnson and Reggie Bush. So the other guys are going to be wide open. And Matt Stafford, we know, is good enough to throw to secondary receivers quite well.
Well, I think Washington might be able to slow Reggie Bush down when he's running, but I think he could have some great catches. You know, he could be a big target, and bust out some big plays this week. So here's hoping, fingers crossed for my team, because I'm 0-2, so I need a win. So next up we have Arizona at New Orleans. Arizona is the 7-point underdog.
7.5 according to mine.
Yeah, it looks like it opened at 9. I'm seeing 7. You know, it varies a little bit. So around 7.5, depending on what exactly, you know.
The thing we're learning about New Orleans early on this year is their offense isn't as good as we thought it was, but their defense is much better than we thought it was. So if you're in this game and you're looking to gamble, you might tease Arizona to get them some more points just because it might be closer than expected. And Carson Palmer is a huge difference between Kevin Kolb. We've learned that a competent NFL quarterback is much better than any of the backups that exist.
Yes.
And Carson Palmer is just better than any of the other choices that Arizona had.
They have made...
And you're seeing it week in and week out with this, 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
But you've seen it for the 2 weeks with this Arizona team, that it just made a ton of sense for them to bring in Carson Palmer. It makes this team better. I don't know, and the defense is good. And the Honey Badger. The Honey Badgers made 2 key plays. He made the key tackle to end the game, and he made the key play the week before, causing a fumble. So the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, is a difference maker. And that's what happens when you draft one of these big-time athletes. He's a difference maker, and I'm glad. And I hope somebody gets him a really big bag of weed every time he does something good on the field, because he deserves it.
Well, there's no doubt Carson Palmer has turned what was an atrocious, stagnant Arizona offense into at least a productive, working. You know, it's an NFL offense. You know, they can score some points. But I think the New Orleans defense is much better than we had anticipated.
Well, it's also in New Orleans.
And they're in New Orleans, and you have the crowd there, and it gets loud in that dome. So
that's why I said you're gonna need to add 10 points to the line to even consider taking Arizona.
Yeah, I like New Orleans here quite a bit. So,
do we have any other 4:00 games?
Well, we have one more 1:00 game. San Diego is in Tennessee. So that would be a 1:00 game. And then we have
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee's one of those teams this year, the way we thought about who was the surprise team last year? Who came out of nowhere? Seattle. Is Tennessee capable of pulling off a Seattle? Jake Locker looks improved. Kenny Britt's healthy. Chris Johnson looks like he's the 1,400-yard back, not the 2,000-yard back. This is in the defense. I mean, I heard another one of the NFL experts out there, Robert Mays, was talking about how much he enjoys Tennessee's defensive backs, McCourty and another guy. They're both very good. And so Tennessee, especially in the weak AFC, has a chance to be a wild card team. And so does San Diego. Who the freak knows what's going on there? 1 week, Phillip Rivers it looks like a fantasy gem this week, and then last week he looked like garbage, throwing balls into the dirt. And Eddie Royal has 7 touchdown receptions, and Ryan Matthews is healthy, and Manti Te'o and his imaginary friends are ready to play this week. So who knows what's happening in San Diego? That's a big. If I put anything as a symbol for San Diego's season so far, it's a big question mark, because I don't know what the hell is going on.
I like San Diego here, LJ, and I'll tell you why. Because Tennessee, I think, is a team that is not going to sneak into the playoffs. I think we are seeing signs of Tennessee being a team that is divided. Kenny Britt seems quite unhappy. Has been I wouldn't say mouthing off. That might be a bit much, but has made, there's been some tweets and stuff about how he's been unhappy there. And it may suggest to me that other players are unhappy. So I don't see how a team like that's divided in that way can.
They're not divided. I'm not buying it. I think that's not a team divided. That's a disgruntled player like Mike Wallace was the week before, complaining about not getting the ball. Number one wide receivers want to get the ball. And Kenny Britt, for all intents and purposes, is the number one wide receiver in Tennessee. I don't see this as some sort of thing. I think this is someone voicing their opinion to try and get more focus on them in the offense. So be it. He's in a contract year. I understand why he's saying what he's saying, because he wants to make money next year. He wants to showcase his skills so he can make some money. So I understand why Kenny Britt's complaining. I don't think it's internal turmoil more than it's Kenny Britt and his agent trying to maneuver themselves to cash in on a bigger paycheck next year. So I still think Tennessee has the potential to be a playoff team just because the rest of the AFC sucks.
Okay, well, speaking of money, is Miami money, or are they the worst 2-0 team?
I think they're money. I think Ryan Tannehill's a legit quarterback. I think he can get the ball down the field. I think that defense is solid. But again, this is a test. This is Atlanta coming to town with their bump, and it's a dinged up Atlanta team. Steven Jackson is dinged up. Roddy White's dinged up. They've lost some people they've lost an offensive lineman. So this is a Miami team that could really solidify themselves as a serious contender with this game right here. And let's be honest now, Philbin learned in Green Bay how to coach a team. And look how good Green Bay is and how long Green Bay has been good. The coach of the Dolphins learned how to coach in Green Bay, learned how to build a team in Green Bay, learned how to do things in Green Bay. And Green Bay has consistently been a good team for years now. So you have a winning pedigree with a coach, and again, Tannehill's better than we thought he was. He gets the ball downfield, he makes decent decisions, and Mike Wallace is still a threat. And if you're looking for a fantasy tight end, the kid from Miami, Clay, what's his name? Or his last name might be Clay or first name, whatever. He's the pickup of the week right now. Go get Miami's tight end because Tannehill likes throwing to the tight ends.
Charles Clay. Tight end Charles Clay,
Charles
yes.
Clay.
I would also add to that, LJ. I would add Miami D. I went and grabbed them this week if you're looking for a defense. And with Atlanta being banged up, they might actually turn out a good defensive performance for you at home. So lock that up.
All right.
Moving on to our next 4:00 game, we have Jacksonville at Seattle, probably going to be the biggest blowout game of the week. And I can't even comprehend how, if you're Jacksonville, how do you even get on the field that day? Because that's rough.
We're not wasting oxygen on Jacksonville. Let me ask you this, Joe Smarge.
Yeah.
The Seattle defense Sunday night showed us that they were up to the task of shutting down a very good San Francisco offense. And that defense showed that from last year to this year, has shown me that we could start talking about them as one of the greatest defenses of all time, just because they're playing in an era where defenses are handcuffed and can't do much to slow offensive players down. So we're looking at a Seattle defense that is innovative, that does things that other teams don't do, and have some of the best athletes you've ever seen on a defense. I mean, this kid Sherman, as I was saying, was the heir apparent to Ray Lewis for most dynamic defensive player in the NFL.
That's exactly it. And he was going nuts this week.
He was dancing with cheerleaders.
Oh, it was great.
Awesome. His gifts are the best. He is, and the beauty of him is he's not one of those kids that's cocky for no good reason. He's cocky because he's good and he's smart. He's not a dumb kid. He's not cocky and dumb. He's cocky and smart. When I see him interviewed, he says the right things. He says things that are smart. He says things that he's observed, and you go, you know what? The kid's right. He's not an idiot. And and a lot of these athletes, you hear him talk, you think, he ain't too bright, but he kills it on the field. This kid kills it on the field, and he's smart.
Yeah, it was something to watch. And I think Seattle, this you look at the Seattle defense, and they are this is the blueprint for the new defense. You know, you have to have, they've gone and they found the right players with the right skill sets to play defense in this new offensive passing league of the NFL. Your players have to be increasingly more agile as these trends in offensive production have gone on. And so this is what you're going to see. I think you're going to see other teams trying to work their way towards the same sort of, staff, same sort of guys on their roster, the same sort of defenses. And it's just been incredible to watch. So that was a great game that night. It was a late game, took a while, they had the delays and stuff, but, it was really good stuff to watch. So Seattle was just steamrolling everybody.
Let's be honest now. The delay started 5 minutes before Breaking Bad started and ended right after Breaking Bad ended. So I still think that the referees and all the players wanted to watch Breaking Bad live.
Yeah, that's probably it, LJ. And so they caused the lightning.
Nope, I think they wouldn't have called it otherwise. They would have probably played through it. They probably would have, but they stopped. I'm full of shit, and you know it. But yeah, it happened to play out exactly like that. I actually got to watch Breaking Bad and then switch back to the game and have not missed anything.
Yeah, well, that was great. I mean, that was great for all of us at home, no doubt. They got to take those delays. That's fan safety and stuff. People get struck by lightning in the stands. It's not just the players. It gets dangerous out there. So but anyway, it just made for a really late night, but it was still a great game to watch. Like, I was just glued to it the whole time. I was just waiting and waiting through the delay. So.
And everybody who passed on Marshawn Lynch in your fantasy drafts for Doug Martin or whoever you thought was going to be great.
Cursing themselves.
Beast mode is beast mode, year in and year out. All right, it's just time for you all to just understand that beast mode is beast mode. And just enjoy beast mode until he's suspended for his drunk driving incident.
And we got another yawner here at 4:30. This will probably be on our regional cable stations, being a Northeast game. Buffalo at New York Jets.
Yeah.
Are you going to watch any minute of this, LJ?
Well,
we're going to turn it off. Yeah. It's a snoozer.
If you've got, okay, CJ Spiller is the only people I think we care about. Maybe Stevie Johnson's your flex player.
Yeah.
But other than that, do we have, outside of Buffalo and the Jet fans, does anybody else care?
I don't think the Jet fans care anymore. I think they're just disgusted.
Jet fans are always Jet fans are talking themselves into Geno Smith right now. Geno's not bad. Come on. The kid only threw how many interceptions, but it was raining. Jet fans are talking themselves into Geno right now as we speak. They're on FAN right now with the Mad Dog.
He gives him that tiniest ray of hope because he has some, there's some potential, there's a small sliver of potential upside there over Mark Sanchez.
Sanchez is awful. Sanchez is done. The Sanchez career is over. He's just trying to salvage the best of a bad situation, so he can end up. Mark Sanchez is going to end up like Matt Leinart, bouncing around trying to find a job.
Yeah, or maybe he'll end up in the CFL or something. Who knows? Moving on,
guys. He goes from New York City to Toronto.
Moving on, LJ. We've got Indy at San Francisco.
Indianapolis, you've got injuries.
Yeah.
You've got injuries to your offensive line, and now you have injuries to your blocking tight end. Oh, poor Andrew Luck is going to be demolished by Aldon Smith this week. Demolished. If you're betting this game, what's the line? The line is appropriate.
Yeah, it's an appropriate line and not a great line to bet, really. I don't think.
Oh God! If Indianapolis is traveling to San Francisco, I would at 10.5. I'd still lean towards San Francisco. I'm so off of the Indianapolis bandwagon. Just totally off of them. They're not that good a team. They have some Andrew Luck and really outside of that, you have an aging Reggie Wayne and a not yet reached his potential T.Y. Hilton, but you don't have much else on that team. You have a twisted ankle away from being out for the year, Ahmad Bradshaw, and a defense that's just not that good. So if you've got Colin Kaepernick on your fantasy team, start him this week. He's going to put up a lot of points.
Yeah, and the total is like around 46. So I think that's dead on, LJ. And then the late game we have Chicago at Pittsburgh. Poor Pittsburgh.
Yeah, my Steelers are bad.
Yeah, it's a tough year for Steelers fans.
My Steelers are bad, but like I said last time, I want my Steelers to just bottom out and get drafted. And and it's really Todd Haley's fault. There was an article in a Pittsburgh newspaper that I read online that just basically just demolished Haley, just demolished him. It had to have been written with the hell. I swear Ben Roethlisberger was sitting right by his computer as he was writing it, because Roethlisberger, I swear, he's just throwing throws just to throw them now and just doesn't care. I think he just despises Todd Haley, and he doesn't want to work with him. He doesn't like the offense where they're running on the first 2 downs or they're running on 3rd down. That stupid screen. That's the stupid fucking shotgun play action run where they pretend like they're going to pass and then hand off to the running back. It's got to be the most awful play ever invented in the NFL. And Todd Haley runs it with regularity, and he doesn't and Roethlisberger still holds on to the ball too long, but whatever. I'm just frustrated and hate it all.
Well, I don't blame you, LJ. If I were a Steelers fan, I'd be quite upset. And I think it just goes to show what we said about Todd Haley before, really for the entire year that we've been on the air. From last year, he's just not. I just don't think he's a good coach.
The reason why the Steelers are stuck with Todd Haley is because the Rooneys are very loyal, and Haley's father worked for the Steelers. So his father went to the Steelers and said, "Can you give my son a chance?" So the Rooneys are very loyal, and Haley wasn't a bad offensive mind at one time. He did come from that Patriots lineage, but he's just not good. And Mike Tomlin I think Tomlin's just letting it play out. I think Tomlin doesn't want to rock the boat. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He's the third coach in the last 50 years that the Steelers have had. I think he's going to let this play out. And I think at the end of the year, you see Haley booted. The Steelers are going to draft Jadeveon Clowney because they're going to have the number 1 pick because they're not going to win a game. And they're going to come into next season with a whole new outlook. I'd really like to see them actually win a few games and then get one of the best tackles because they need an offensive line first and foremost, and everything else will fall into place once they have some blocking.
Well, with that being said, LJ, I think I would jam Chicago here.
How do I feel about Chicago? Chicago has got to be you know what Chicago is? It's a dysfunctional family that's functional enough to win. I mean, they have some issues with Jay Cutler's decision making. They have some issues with not getting to the quarterback. Their pass rush is not there, but they are able to strip balls. They're able to intercept balls. Their timing is impeccable, but their skill level leaves something to be questioned.
You have Oakland in Denver Monday night. And Denver is a 14.5-point favorite today.
Yeah.
Are you going to watch this game at all, LJ? Are you even going to turn it on Monday?
Of course. I have Peyton Manning.
Oh, well, there you go.
And I've got Demaryius Thomas, and I've got a reason to keep an eye on it. And it's football. I'll put it on. How I Met Your Mother debuts that night, though.
You'll have to switch over then.
And that's my birthday.
Oh, well, happy birthday, LJ.
Is a week from this past Monday. The 23rd, Monday, is my birthday.
Well, there you go. Happy birthday, buddy.
Well, hopefully Peyton Manning puts up 43 points.
That would be a good birthday gift, no doubt. Well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us, LJ. We covered just about everything. Yeah, we got through all the lines, and we had a great week of football, and we'll be looking forward to watching. So, you got anything else, LJ, you want to throw on the old fire there before we take off?
Well, Johnny Football is I've come to the conclusion that Johnny Manziel is a cross between Brett Favre and Russell Wilson. And I think he's gonna need to find the right situation in the NFL, and somebody with some skill at the wide receiver. He's gonna make a good second round pick. He's a good second round gamble. Is Johnny Manziel as of right now? I don't have him as a first round pick. I have him as a second round pick, and I think he'll go to one of those or late first round to a really good team that maybe needs a quarterback.
Well, he's definitely great.
And the key to a guy like Johnny Manziel nowadays, with the new salary cap the way it is, it's good to have a good young quarterback at a cheap rate, because then you could spend money elsewhere to put pieces around him. It's one of the reasons why Seattle is as good as they are, was because Russell Wilson makes, $800,000 a year, so they can afford to pay all the rest of these guys that they need bigger money, like Percy Harvins and other people. They can bring in bigger dollar people to put around a good young piece and build around them. It's what the Redskins should do, but Schneider hasn't done it yet with RG3, and it's what Indianapolis wasted their money and spent it irrationally on bad players. But they're spending money because they have a cheap Andrew Luck. It's teams with a cheap quarterback. So Manziel gives a team who's got, pieces, a chance to have a cheaper quarterback that can win. Again, Teddy Bridgewater, this kid Hundley there's a lot of good young quarterbacks coming in, and the NFL is trending towards needing you to get superstar production from a cheap spot in the roster that would normally eat up your money. Like the Steelers can't improve because Roethlisberger's eating up a huge chunk of their money. The Patriots can't improve too much because Tom Brady eats up a huge chunk of money. Even if he is willing to take a pay cut, teams get chunks of money just eaten up by star players. And the salary cap doesn't increase year